Welcome to Mercy's Designs. My name is Mercy and I sell Stampin' Up! Products. In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make this beautiful autumn sampler. And it is a lot of fun. And I like putting my samplers in a shadow box frame. So it would be a 12 by 12. It's somewhat like making a scrapbook page, but of course I'm not having personal pictures. It's just all stamping and coloring and lots of fun. So I will get started. I wrote out a little diagram here, and this will just kind of help me keep on track, and I keep my packets separate for each of these displays. So there's a lot of coloring here, but the first part we're going to be doing some blending. So I'm going to set this aside and start bringing in my pieces. So this is the Gather Together DSP. And I like using a laminated piece when I'm sponging, and I'm going to be using Merlot, Saffron, Pear, Pizzazz, and Cajun Craze. And this first part we're going to be making for the large leaf. So I have a little diagram here how I did this. And this will come in handy when I do my class in mid-September. If you live in the Northeast area and are interested, please email me and I'd be happy to tell you more information about the class. All right, so the first one I'm going to do is like 3 spots of Cajun Craze. So I like to rub off a little bit so that it's not quite as intense. And Cajun Craze goes a long way. That was a little dark, but it won't really matter in the end. So here, just rub off again. And this one, I'm going to fill in more the spots. And then I'm going to bring in my Pear Pizzazz. And this is going to be sort of at the bottom for the stem, more or less. But it's fine if a little bit is for the leaf as well, because you know how autumn leaves are often, it's interspersed the different colors. So now I have my Saffron, and this is a great filler color. It's the lightest, so I recommend doing this at the end and blend these colors together a little bit. But I don't want to blend too much because it is going to be a leaf that has multiple colors. So a little bit of blending is great, but not completely necessary. So what I suggest next would be to bring in your embossing buddy and then stamp this with your Versamark and color it. Use the powder with the copper, and what you will get will be this beautiful, here, let me bring it in. I already die cut it out. Piece like this. So each one will turn out differently. I did want to point that out. So there's no two the same, essentially. Let me just close these ink pads up and we will start assembling. Actually, I do need some of these. But I might have enough ink on my little thing here. So bring that back in. It's a little premature. And what I like to do is take the yellow one and add the Cajun Craze. And ooh, this is a little dark, even with the ink on there. But it can be fairly dark if you want, but that color really adds a lot to it. And then for the green, I just did the same color. So just sponge a little bit of green. And then for the actually, I used cherry cobbler here. What I did here was bring in the delicata, and I sponged a little bit of this on, and this added this beautiful like flecks. So it's just stunning, I think. And you can go fairly thick, or you can keep it pretty light. It's just a matter of personal preference. So I will set this aside now. I think we are officially done now with the sponging. After a few false alarms, right? Okay, so you can see just how stunning these leaves are. And we'll just start building. So I'm gonna punch this out, which I just have a little tape holding this. But I wanted to see you to see how it looks inside before die cutting. Okay, so here is our leaf. And the only one I'm popping up would be this one. So I will get my dimensionals and add that real quick. This, again, is a time-consuming project, and I will speed up parts of this video so that you're not completely wasting an hour of your time because that's pretty much what you had to count on for making this. Okay, so I will speed up this next part and you can just sit back and relax. Okay, so here I'm going to be coloring a little bit. This is the what I call the milk jug or milk can, and there are a couple tricks here about coloring this. First off, you just color it pretty much straight, and I like using the dark, but you can use also a lighter shade. So I'll speed this part up and then you can see. All right, so here is the result. And one of the main techniques I'm doing here is taking the color lifter and on the blend or the fine tip end, dotting it, and it lifts it and looks like it's galvanized that way. So I just wanted to point that out real quick. I will quickly attach this. Now, what I like to do is I like to only pop up the flowers, and then it looks more dimensional, I feel like, than popping up the entire thing. But it's really a matter of personal preference. And I did color some of this beforehand. The colors that I used would be the Pretty Peacock. I used Cherry Cobbler, So Saffron, the Smoky Slate, the Color Lifter, and Crumb Cake to color this particular piece. So I think it's really pretty. Oh, we just need to add a little bit of glue at the bottom. Almost forgot. And then this piece, which I call number 1, is completed. And I will have all the dimensions and what went into this on in the description below. So please look for that. So there, that piece is now complete, and we will move on to the next piece, which is the blessed. So I have all these pieces ready to go in an envelope, and I will start pulling that out. And I started with some of the coloring here, but I did want to explain a little bit about that. I set up my Stamparatus, which I will not show exactly how I did it, but I want to bring it in. I have it all ready, so I can just put my die cuts in, so like this, in each spot, and ink it up and stamp it, so it's ready to go. But to save time, I've already done that, and we will now mostly just be assembling and finishing the coloring here. So this turkey is just really cute. I think this is a great set. It is from the Birds of a Feather. I used a lot of different sets for this sampler. I used Gather Together, A Wild Rose with the Blessed, Merry Moose, Country Home, Birds of a Feather, and Harvest Hellos. And I'll have, again, that listed in the description below. If there are some things I'm sure I'll forget to mention. I will definitely be listing that. And I also wanted to point out how I recently labeled all of my stamping blends, and this stands for Mint Macaron, and it's the light, and then these are my initials. So I think that'll be handy just to be able to read it quicker, and when I do blends class, I will not get mine mixed up with other people's, so it's a double use. All right, so I'm going to color his apron. I think it's a male turkey. And we will get this this front completed pretty quickly, but I will speed up the next part just so you don't have to watch too much. Okay, so we have the coloring completed here. Now it's just a matter of assembling. So first I like to do a dry layout. Now I'm going to have this turkey in the background, so I'm not popping him up. So just gonna quickly add a little glue here, some Tombow, and set him kind of on the lower part because we're going to have a bow at the top. So I'm going to use a glue dot to attach a bow, which I've already made. So I call these my finger bows because I wrap the thread around my fingers and then tie it. So it's sort of a bit of a faux bow, I would say. It's not really a real bow, but it makes a bigger impact than one layer. So it's one way to, if your thread is fine, to get bigger. Okay, so we're gonna pop up our little guy here. He's very handsome. And one alternative, which I didn't bring with me, is you could do the chicken with the heart instead if you don't want to have it as Halloweenish. So just something to keep in mind. Okay, so I think that's pretty good placement. Might have been better a little lower, but we'll see. Oh, that should be fine. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead, pop this up, and then we're gonna tuck the leaves in. So that kind of just finishes it off. The base here is Early Espresso and Crumb Cake. So I kind of want this all to kind of tie together. Yeah, well, I could move this over just a teeny bit. So we have plenty of room for the leaves. So here are our leaves, and I don't mind it going off a little bit because I think that looks kind of cool. So we're gonna just put this leaf over here, and then this one I'm going to pop up somewhat. So I'm going to add a few dimensionals over here, or maybe just one, and the rest is going to be attached by being on the picture. I like this technique because it kind of brings everything together, if you will. So here we go. And it looks more seamless, I think. So this was panel number 2 complete, which we've done 3 technically. And now we will go on to the banner one. So bringing in my banner. This is gonna be interesting. So I'll set that aside. So this one is gonna spell autumn. And I have all the pieces already die cut. And I have my banner. Now, when doing this one, I highly recommend starting right to left. So it helps to have it spelled out because you'd be surprised just how easy it is to get mixed up. So I got these, ooh, I bent that a little, whoops, but it should be fine. They can be a little delicate. So I'm starting on the left side, and I'm kind of, yeah, I need to do it kind of a little lower. And I wouldn't push it down yet at this point. So next is my M. And these are a little delicate, so take it easy when you're doing this part. So I'm just going to place my M and keep working from right to left instead of, all right, so my next letter is the U. I'm already confused. I was like, what are we on now? That's why it helps to write it here, because otherwise you'd be getting lost very easily. And these letters are slightly kind of different. Well, they're fairly easy to read, but you know how sometimes. Okay, so autumn. And this one I'm actually doing closer together than my previous one, but it'll all work out because the mousse kind of fills in the space. So here is my U and then my A. And I can adjust this if I need to, because I'm not pushing it down. That's an important thing. Until you're really sure, it's better not to push down on something like that. So the next is stamping the mousse. So I'm going to bring in my punch and my pieces for that. Early Espresso is what I used to stamp the mousse himself. And oh, I almost forgot. It is a good idea to stamp on a one of these cushioned mats. So here is the cute, adorable mousse. Now I've seen a lot of people use blends on it to color it, but it does come. It is a two-step. So I'm bringing in Crumb Cake, and this time I'm going to try stamping off because it seemed a little dark on my first one. So here, this is second generation. Sorry about my head, but I want to try to get this right. Oh, perfect. Yeah, I do like the second generation better than with my first one. So I'm going to set that aside, bring in my punch, and we will get him punched out in no time. He is just super adorable. I think it looks like fall as long as you don't add the scarf. The scarf makes him look like Christmas, so this is a very nice one. So I'm feeling like I got this a little bit, I didn't allow enough room. I was worried I was allowing too much. So I'm just going to shift these first two letters over, and we're going to pop him up. So bringing in my dimensionals, I'm going to pop him up. This is a pretty easy panel. I'm going to bring in the little ones because his antlers are pretty small, and I don't want dimensionals showing. Now, if you want to get the legs, you can cut off little strips like this and help secure the legs if you're concerned about that part, which I kind of feel like it would be nice to have a little support on the legs. So I'm just going to do two of the legs though, and not do them all. Okay. So this will be our next panel complete, and then we can move on to the other pieces to this puzzle, if you will. Isn't that adorable? I think it looks really good. So I'm just going to go ahead and push it down now, and we have our autumn, and that piece is complete. So I am next going to bring in the jug of flowers with cattails, and I will be doing some more coloring. So I will speed this part up, but I'm going to be doing that same technique with the color lifter. So this is where, in my opinion, the magic happens, is with this color lifter, because you get that nice galvanized look, which is so cool. And it takes us a little bit to take effect, kind of. All right, so I don't like this little part here, so I'm going to remove that. And this is one technique. There, I'm sure, are multiple ways to achieve this, but this is the way I like doing it the best. So I'm just going to cut around and try to get close, but you can't get it 100%. So what I do is I bring in something to protect my work surface and get my crumb cake, the dark crumb cake, and actually I'll use this end, and just color it so you're going to, it'll blend into the background better. And you'll see it a lot less, the part you don't want to see. Okay, so this one's almost complete. What I'm going to do next is add my dimensionals here. I think this sampler is just really pretty and a lot of fun for the fall. What I like doing is doing a seasonal sampler for each season, and then changing them out, and then I put them in the scrapbook 12 by 12 3-ring binder type that Stampin' Up! Sells with their photo sheet protectors, so I can preserve what I've done over the years. This is actually my first year, but I plan to keep doing them because they're so much fun. And I kind of like my style better than some people's. I don't know if you like this one, but I like it to not be too matchy-matchy, meaning I don't like doing like 9 squares. I like doing it for it to vary. It can kind of mirror, that's fine with me, but I don't like it every square being exactly the same. All right, so I'm just going to position this, hopefully in the right way. And then this handle will just be, since it's glued, it won't move anywhere. And this is one reason why gluing this instead of just popping everything up is important, because of this handle. So piece number 4 is now complete. And now this is gonna be this one I think is the focal point of this whole sampler. And I think copper is fantastic. I love it. I use it every chance I get. So if you don't like copper, I apologize, but this is really well worth it to me. They have there's a brand new embossing folder. Probably a lot of you have already seen it in the new holiday catalog, and it is called the Hammered Metal 3D. And I went ahead, this piece is 1.5 by 3.5, and I embossed this. This is a copper foil paper, and then I corner round it with the trio punch. So it's supposed to look like those beverage tubs, which I think is really fun. I came up with this idea all by myself. I didn't copy anyone. Not that taking other people's ideas is all wrong. I do that all the time, but I do try to give credit where credit is due. But I came up with this idea on my own, so I'm kind of proud of that. Anyway, so when you're stamping this one, I'm gonna bring this in. For the leaves, it's a really nice idea to use your punch. Where did I put the punch? Oh, here it is. There's so much things on my table. You would kind of shudder probably. So you punch it out, then you put your stamps loosely in the place, and then put it on the block. So that's kind of in a nutshell how you do that. And so when you go to punch this out, I know that the stamp leaf on right, so I'm not trying to do this and it would be the wrong direction. So I have it marked. So whoever does my class would know exactly what to do. Then here is the punch and you just punch it out. All right. So it works perfectly. Really happy with this. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and speed up a little because I don't want to bore you too much, but I will get started. I seem to have lost my little topper here for the one. It bounced away, but maybe I'll find it in a second. Okay, so I'm going to start coloring here. This is our pumpkin. Realized I forgot to bring over this little die cut of the pumpkins, so I'm going to quickly add that and then we can start assembling the whole sampler. So I'm just going to put this here. You wouldn't have to add this, but I think it adds something. With my original one I colored it with the Saffron, but this one I think I'll just leave plain white. And the other thing I did off camera was I kind of adjusted these trim so they were more uniform. All right, so what you're gonna need is a 12 by 12 sheet. And here is the 12 by 12. And I suggest going ahead and starting a dry layout. So I'm gonna bring in all the pieces that we've already colored. And you can see how it takes shape. I think it's a really cute sampler for fall. And I hope you agree and we'll consider giving it a try. All right, so this is a pretty easy one to line up. I did do a little bit of overlapping here. So I'm just going to try to center everything. And I'm gonna go ahead and start by adding the side banner. Now I could have used this side, which is pretty, but I kind of wanted it more subtle, and this is a little bit louder. So it just depends on your personal preference. This is a 2 by 12 inch strip of DSP from the Come Together. All right. Ooh. So I'm gonna just leave a little bit of a white border at the edge, and more uniform than this, hopefully. Starting to seal. Okay. All right, that looks pretty good. Then what I want to do next, or go ahead and set these two pieces. So I'm gonna go ahead and add this. Now I cut out this center in the back, and replaced it with some cardstock that I don't really care about because I wanted to use it for a different project, the early espresso. So you can do that and save on your cardstock or use it more ways. All right, so I think that could be a little bit to the right more. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Trying to get it straight is important because you will notice it. Some people use an L, and that looks set. I'm just thinking maybe I should go a little higher, but I think it's pretty good. All right, so just adding all the pieces together, and then I'll put it in the frame, which, as I was mentioning, is a shadow box frame. So here we go. I just want to see if this will look good. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. So next I'm going to add these pieces. I really like these stitch nested dies. I think they look really good for this particular layout. Now, I guess I should have technically added this first, so I'll go ahead and add this piece and slip it under my banner, or my autumn banner. It's quite a long word to spell, so it took a while to do all the die cuts for this project because I'm doing it enough for 8 people. So, die cutting out all those letters is a bit of a challenge. But I've had fun preparing this, and I love coming up with the designs for these samplers. I did a beautiful one this summer using some of the similar colors as far as like Pretty Peacock and the Crumb Cake and Mint Macaron for a summer, more or less beach / sailing with the Sail Away stamp set and some other ones I brought in. Okay, so I'm just kind of trying to match this more or less, but it doesn't have to match 100%. Just be straight, preferably. Oh, that's just a variance in the cardstock. Okay, so what do you think? I think it's really pretty. I think that it turned out really well. I hope you agree. If you did, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. I try to upload regularly, although I haven't done a few, probably well over a week because things have been so busy at home. But the kids are going back to school, so yay, and I'll be uploading more. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any stamping needs, please email me at mewants3@gmail.com, and I'd be happy to help you. Also, don't forget that I will have in the description below, all the measurements. This was my original one, so a little bit different here with the plaid. And then here's the one we just completed. So thanks again for watching. Happy stamping.